My name is Renae Rolls, and I am many things, but professionally, I am a lifestyle photographer and a future student advisor for North Island College. In my role at NIC, I work really closely with high school students and young adults as they explore post-secondary options as well as different careers that they might want to pursue. I really value supporting students as they're transitioning from high school into post-secondary. And I actually have a master's in education specializing in higher ed and student development theory. But what I specifically was so fascinated at looking at was how leadership theory informs student success and well-being. So working with students in my role at NIC, I witness a ton of anxiety, stress, doubt, confusion as they start to think about their future career in education. There is a lot of pressure on students to know what to do with the rest of their life, and they're making some really big decisions. And it actually drives me crazy when I get asked, or when I hear folks getting asked, what do you want to do with your life? As if you're only going to do one thing, which is utter nonsense. So today, I want to explore some leadership theories that hopefully will support you as you navigate big life decisions, but also your day-to-day. So let's dive in. I always like to start with the concept of asking, what is leadership? Now, my first exposure to the concept of leadership was in high school. I was picked for an extra credit leadership class, and honestly, I had no clue what leadership meant. When I heard the word leadership in my mind, it went directly to this concept of like the CEO, the boss, someone at a large organization. And I definitely wouldn't have defined myself as a leader. I wasn't like this like crazy popular student. I didn't play on the sports teams, and frankly, I was a bit of a nerd. And I embrace that now. But when I was in high school, I definitely didn't envision myself as a leader. And at first glance to this leadership program that I was lucky enough to participate in, I just thought it was about like planning high school dances, our Spirit Week, and raising money for local charity. And really, I was told it would be good for scholarships, for financial aid, and university applications, so I just was like, yeah, sure, sign me up. However, the sense of support and community that I experienced in the program played a pivotal role in my own journey to understanding leadership and rooted in me such this interest that I pursued it well into my undergraduate and graduate studies. My understanding of leadership evolved from this image of like the boss at the forefront, making these big decisions, to a more subtle and daily practice, starting with how you lead yourself first. So today, I want to share with you 2 leadership theories that informs my work with students as I support them exploring post-secondary and career paths through advising and coaching conversations. The first one's called strength-based leadership, and the second is social change model of leadership. These 2 models really changed how I thought about leadership, and my hope is that they will pivot your perspective of leadership, give you insights on how you show up as a leader, and with this awareness can provide you with unique clarity and space to make decisions and know that's what's going to be a good fit for yourself. Whether you're picking a career, school that you want to go to, or reflecting on what you need to support your well-being and community today. So the first one is strength-based leadership, but before we dive into that, I want to start off with a conversation on values. Our values, our core values, are fundamental beliefs that guide us. They dictate our behavior, how we respond to things, as well as understanding the difference between right and wrong. Now, people have core values, but businesses have them too. And for individuals, values are actually formed pretty early on in life based off of your experiences. They're usually pretty consistent through your life. They may slightly evolve as you grow and have new experiences, but they tend to be rooted. Now, it's a bit of a reflective process to determine what your core values are. It doesn't happen overnight. And I've spent a long time getting more clarity on my own values the more I experience. So often when I'm starting a conversation with students around their goals and what they might want to see in their future, I start talking about values. So I'm going to give you a bit of an activity. You can always press pause to this talk or come back to it later. And it's something that you can also just Google different activities to find your core values. But essentially what you're going to do is just Google core values, and I'll be providing a list later on the platform. But from this large list of values, I want you to go through and select any word that resonates with you. And so when I first did this, I think the list was like 100 values, and I selected like 50 of them. Like it was just like, yeah, I like that. So the second step is to, after you've done your first selection, group these into similar clusters. So the values are similar. So you could pick one word from each cluster that best represents a group. So for me, when I first did this, I had circled family, community, and connection. And so I clustered those words together because they kind of resonated. They seemed similar to me. But when I looked at that cluster, I realized, it's actually about connection, because that's what I valued in family and in community, was that sense of connection. So it's a reflective process, and it's okay if you don't identify all your values at once. It just helps kind of get a sense of what's important to you. So, okay, now we have an idea of our core values. So I just want you to hold on to that, because we're going to come back to that, and I promise this will all connect hopefully at the end. So our values are different than our unique strengths, and this is where the strength-based leadership theory comes in. So in a society that is so focused on lack, and I often talk about mindset with this, so like a fixed mindset or a scarcity mindset. Often students, when I talk with them, they say, oh, I'm not good at that, or I can't do that, or I'm not enough at whatever that might be. So for me, when I was studying leadership theory, it was so refreshing to see a positive perspective to leadership. So rather on focusing on what we don't have, this approach really looks at each team member, each individual as with something to offer in a unique way of delivering leadership. So now you don't need to do a formal assessment to figure out your strengths. I'm just a bit of a geek, so I really do like to do the assessment, but really it's about asking yourself, what am I naturally good at? What am I naturally drawn to? So you might take a bit of unpacking, and again, these aren't like 10-minute conversation. It takes reflection and intention and time to find greater awareness about ourselves. And really importantly to note is sometimes our strengths are actually camouflaged as weaknesses until we change our perspective and have a growth mindset about it. So let me provide an example. When I did the assessment, my number one strength was the empathy. And empathy means that an individual can really put themselves in another's situation or shoes and experience those feelings that individual might be experiencing. So growing up, everyone told me I was too sensitive. I probably cried like daily, like I was just very emotional, and I was teased a lot about it. My parents even told me to like toughen up, and I just thought that that was a weakness. But it's actually a strength, and for me, it really allows me to connect with people and understand different perspectives and connect quickly with others. It allows me to hold a sensitivity that not everyone can, and it's actually critical for me to be successful in my job and life. So this awareness of, hey, wait a minute, this is a strength. It was such a epiphany for me to get a greater understanding. So there's going to be a bunch of different strengths that you have. I'm not going to go through every them. So this assessment goes to 5, so we're going to skip ahead. Because I really want you just to take this time to think about what really motivates you, what drives you, and we'll go from there. So now that you've gone through this reflection process, and let's say you have an idea of your core values, let's talk about your values and your strengths combined, and how does it relate to leadership. Leadership comes in varying degrees and levels. It presents itself in many ways, and you need different types of leaders for different projects, different times, emergencies, situations, and context. So having an understanding and awareness of yourself, your values, and your strengths will help inform you as how you can show up as a leader in your own unique way that fills you up. So this is going to bring me to the second leadership theory I wanted to introduce to you of social change model. So this model of leadership approaches leadership as a purposeful, collaborative, and values-based process. Hence why we started this talk looking at our values. It emphasizes the need to understand oneself and others in order to create an effective community and a community of change. So by understanding our leadership style, our values, our strengths, we can more effectively contribute to positive change and what we can bring to the table. So this model was kind of built on a few assumptions. So the number one is that leadership is socially responsible. It impacts change on behalf of others. It's a collaborative process. It's a process, not a position. Remember that, like, I thought it was a CEO. It's all about process. It's inclusive, and it's accessible to every single person. Everyone has their own strengths as a leader. It's a values-based, and it's really about becoming involved in your community. It's a powerful vehicle for leadership and developing your own leadership style. So this kind of idea of the social change model, it's a less about the individual, but more about a leadership community that strives to make change in our communities or our environments. So when we understand our own values and strengths, we really tend to gain a new appreciation for ourselves, but also a new appreciation for the unique strengths and values of others. And that just supports stronger collaboration. And when we're trying to make big social change, or just change in our day-to-day experiences, having that awareness and appreciation for others, I think, can go a really, really long way. So as I noted, when I work with students and they feel this pressure to know everything and make the right choice, I just really encourage you to remember your core values and remember your strengths and how that may fit into your decision-making process. So for myself, when I identified connection was critical for me and my fulfillment and just my well-being, I really started recognizing, like, hey, how is this showing up in my job? And I'm really lucky that it kind of just organically, I tumbled into this position in post-secondary. I never planned to work in post-secondary, but I just kept gravitating towards these opportunities where I sensed connection. COVID, I really lost that in my work. I wasn't able to go out in community. I wasn't able to meet with my students face-to-face. And while, thank goodness, technology has evolved, that we can interact in this virtual way, it doesn't provide the essence of connection that I needed. So I actually decided to launch my own photography business. And what happened was, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my goodness, I spent so much time in education trying to support students, and I still do, and I love my work, but it wasn't filling me up in a way that I needed. And so the awareness of my core values gave me, and my strengths, gave me the confidence to not pivot my career, but adjust my career. So my strength of empathy, what supported me in my role at NIC, would also support me in my role as a photographer. Because as you can imagine, it's a very vulnerable moment to, like, be in front of the camera. Like, despite us all having cell phones and, like, you know, taking photos of our friends, to have a stranger take a photo of you, it's a weird position. So my strength of empathy not only helped me work with students and have one-on-one conversations and really meet students where they're at and address their concerns, but I was able to adapt that strength to an entirely different industry and use it to my benefit to help me succeed, because I was able to connect with students. So I guess what I'm saying is that your career will evolve. What you pick now will not be what you do forever. So let go of that pressure, let go of that stress. And I know that's easier said than done, because I was like the student that was so anxious about making these big decisions. And I wish I had this insight earlier, because I think it would have really helped me make some of these big decisions as I was exiting high school and throughout my early 20s. So again, understanding your values and your strengths, it's a lot of work. Sometimes we intuitively know it, but it's also okay to not know them acutely. And I would say your awareness of them and how they show up will evolve. So I was convinced that like my value was family, and it only till I like really thought about it, unpacked it a little bit, did I realize it's about connection. Now, I have a bit of an equation that I kind of like to help contextualize these theories. So essentially, your values plus your strengths plus X, and that might be a criteria, will help you make informed decisions that are a good fit for you. So an example for me is my value of connection plus my strength of empathy plus my desire to have a really creative outlet equaled photography for me. Whereas connection plus empathy plus supporting others in an intimate way equaled my work at North Island College. So instead of like asking yourself, what do you want to do after school? I always like to ask, how do you want to spend your day to day? How do you want to spend your life? How do you want to feel in those moments? So I just really hope that makes sense, and I invite you to reflect. I invite you to gain an appreciation for yourself, your own values, your own strengths, because you are so unique. And I think if we as a community and as a society can really appreciate those strengths and values that we all hold, we can make such tremendous positive change as we hold up others and appreciate them. So thank you for listening. I hope you are well, and best of luck with whatever you decide with your future.